right. All right. From the top. Hello, Dr. Free, and welcome to Storytime Spotlight. Storytime Spotlight is brought to you by the August Wilson African American Cultural Center. And we meet once every other month to speak with an author about their work, how their work comes along, and just about their process and a little bit about their life. So thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So as always, we just like our authors to introduce themselves, and just to start, tell us a little bit about how your process came to be, the title of your book, and just how it started.
Okay, you've got it. So our name is Dr. Alexander Free Garland. For short, we go by Dr. Free, and then others know us as Dr. Chakra, because that's our pen name for the Conscious Children's Chakra book series. Ignore the tabs, just gonna read a little bit later, so I want to make sure that I'm keeping track.
Perfect.
Yeah, our pronouns officially are we, us, and our, and we have a lot of grace for people saying otherwise, so there's no issue here. The pronouns are really just about being inclusive. Our grandfather passed in July of 2020, and we had this visceral experience of we are standing on the shoulders of his accomplishments. We wouldn't be here without him. And so really bringing in that level of community, that level of ancestry in our everyday speak, that it's not just us you're speaking to, you're speaking of a line of greats that made us here. And then also inside of the pandemic, it was really easy to feel like we were alone, like a lot of people's, personal accounts. And it really helped us to, in that verbiage, realize that, hey, we're all in this together. Just because we're, siloed in different places doesn't mean that we're not connecting or that there's not love there, so just that reminder really helped.
Collective and community. Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you seriously for taking the time out to break that down for us. That's a beautiful way to just move forward, living life and kind of bringing everyone in. And I think that a lot of people can relate to, and it resonates with them, especially during a time where everyone was like very separate, and this individualism was just like being driven and pushed and glamorized. Is like, to bring that back and center that is special. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they say it takes a community to raise a child, and a lot of the temper tantrums I see out there, we got some children hiding away in adult bodies. So, let's bring it back to community,
Indeed, it definitely takes a community and then some. We're currently at the August Wilson Center moving through our children's camps and our work camps. So I definitely get what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
That. So tell us a little bit more about Dr. Chakra. I'm so
absolutely. So it's really interesting. It was back in 2019. We were looking after one of our nieces, Nicoletta. We call her Nico. And we were taking her to the public library, and we'd been there a number of times. So we're just like, oh, well, let's look at different books. We were really into consciousness. We're like, oh, well, let's, create or keep going with this vibe of consciousness that she can read and see. And we were looking for chakra videos, just conscious book videos. Conscious books in the library. And we didn't see a lot. It's like, And at first we complained about it. Like, you know what? There should be more. And one time in meditation, we just sat down and was like, well, there's not more because you haven't put any out. I was like, I'm not an author. What are you talking about? Like, what? Spirit, what's happening? And I was like, well, I guess I could write one book, just for her. And then the pandemic came down, and one book turned into 11. And so the first book was simply Chakras. And each book is based off of or inspired by a Black or Indigenous child in my life. So Nico, she had a really simple life at the time, had a very simple diet, and just enjoyed simple things. And so, what would be a great introduction to chakras other than a simple introduction, right?
Mhm.
So
Sure.
we wrote simply, yeah, simply chakras,
Mhm.
and it was just a search and find book. So you go in there, and we had all these little, like a little search and find map, and
Okay.
they would have to find all the red ones that go with the red chakra. And it
Mhm.
wasn't really, it was just first introductory of like, oh, find all the things that are red. The root chakra is red. Got it. Find all the things that are orange. The sacral chakra is orange. Got it. You know?
Right, right,
And then
right.
we just kind of built up from there.
Okay.
And yeah, we didn't expect to have a whole series. Uh, Somebody at one point coined us as the conscious Dr. Seuss. And we said, wait a minute, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna keep that coin.
Okay.
And all of the books in this series, there's 10 books in this one series, 218 pages. Um, all the books in this series have a healthy life habit that they're able to explore and or uh, just that these teach and or talk about. You know, like that life habit or um, healthy habit of eating healthy. There's emotional habits, right? Just really being aware of our emotions and how to manage them in different spaces,
Mhm.
as well as wanting. One of the books called "Oh to Be Free." It's like I want, and
Mhm.
it's okay to want. That's the moral of the story. And at the same time, be present where you are. Because sometimes when you
Yes.
want the bike, you don't even appreciate the bike because now you want the car. And then
Mhm.
once you get the car, you don't appreciate the car because you want the airplane, right? It's like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, be where you are, you know?
Yes, being present. Yes, yes, and grateful.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and these themes, they can, impact and inspire anyone, so even though these are children's books, I imagine everyone can benefit from this.
I'm glad you said that because we found that the best way to introduce these books to children and to really have it stick with them is for the families to read it together or the community to read it together, right? So not just give the book to the child alone, but really have the parent or guardian really read it with them and then talk about what that looks like, what these habits look like in their life, right?
Mhm.
It's meant as a manual, so to speak, to be able to deal with rearing children and
Mhm.
also keep yourself on the steady foot. You know what I mean? Like if I'm teaching these children about managing their emotions, that means I'm going to check mine as well. You know, and
Absolutely.
just being able to be on that same page, communication wise and just heart wise. Like we need to go back to the heart. You know,
Mhm.
loving ourselves, giving ourselves some grace and forgiveness as well as other people. So that's what these books are a great source of, and that's what the intention was.
This is beautiful. Wow, 11 books.
Yeah.
How does that feel knowing, where your mindset was going into that first book and what your expectations may have been to continue building on that? What is that like? How does that feel?
You know, it's so interesting because sometimes when you're working on something, you're just your head's down and you're doing what you're doing, right? You're like, yeah, I
Mhm.
know what I'm doing, I know why I'm doing it. I'm just doing what I'm doing, and you just kind of, you're out here, you're making impact, but you don't look at the big picture sometimes. So at one point, we looked up, and it just really moved us because the impact of 11 books wasn't just in the physical, it was in the emotional with these kids that felt like a part of their life was being um, expressed through these books because it was inspired by them. It was
Mhm.
every book has a generational wealth account that's connected to it for that specific child. So it
Wow.
raises money for these children to be able to go to college. Yeah, when people buy it. And so to be able to pay out our first uh, child from the series, he turned 18, and it was like, okay, we have to give him something. And we were able to present a big check and everything. And it was like, wait a minute. yeah,
The
we're not
work
going
is
to heal
tangible.
generational health in like, you know,
Mhm.
one generation necessarily, but the what we've done in this small community so far has been huge. So yeah, it's when your life purpose shows itself to you and it
Yes.
sits in, it's like, ooh, that,
It
oh wow,
it's
okay.
not light. It's very it's an experience. And it's
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it, is something to navigate even all on its own, but this is very interesting, for me, and I'm sure my team is going to be able to relate to this too, to to know in certain creative spaces sometimes we feel like kind of boxed in. And so for this
Mm,
work to kind of expand outside of not just creativity, but spiritually, and then also the investing in the future, I mean, all at one time, this is not something that I see often, or if I've seen it at all. And I just wonder, on a typical day, carrying out that work, what does a typical day look like for Dr. Free?
woo, it's busy. uh, and we say that in a way that we grew up with traumas. You know what I mean? It wasn't necessarily easy. And one of the things that we realized as an adult is that we have this urge for intensity. You know,
Mhm.
like, oh, you know what? Part of our trauma bonding is going and reaching out for intensity. So we realized this during the pandemic when we were just working on ourselves and being with ourselves. And one of the things is like, okay, well, how do we not fix that, but remedy it? How do we, provide a remedy for that? It's like, okay, well, first thing you could do is meet intensity with intensity. What does that mean? If you're going to be intense about something, choose what you're going to be intense about. I'm going to
Mhm.
choose to be intense about my health, choose to be intense about my, conscious awareness, choose to be intense about my healthy healing practices, right?
Yeah.
So what we would do is we started practicing languages on Duolingo, right? Pittsburgh based, I got it,
Gang, gang.
And so we were like, oh, we're not gonna just do one language. We're gonna do several at the same time. So we went into Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Arabic, Hindi, Urdu,
Wow.
French, German, and it was just like 5 minutes of each in the morning and in the night, but it activated our mind and kept us busy in a way that was intense, but also so enriching, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And it started to seem that because we were getting that intensity from there, the other intensity wouldn't reach out to find us, the intensity that
Mhm.
was hard to deal with.
Mhm.
And so we leaned in with yoga every day. And, at first it was one bath a month for radical self care is what we call it. Right. And we went from one bath a month to one bath a week.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll do 3 baths a week and just like really sit in radical self care. Like, this is what it looks like to really take care of yourself today or this week.
Yes.
And that's been a huge part of our daily life, adopting radical self care. That also looks like making sure that we eat enough a day, right? One of the reminders in one of the books is there's affirmations in one of the books,
Mhm.
and one of the affirmations for the root chakra that we created was eat, sleep, hydrate, shower. That's how I restore power.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's really catchy, because it rhymes, but it's
Yes.
also like, oh, you know what? Let me remember some of the root things to keep me grounded. I need to eat,
Mhm.
make sure I'm sleeping, hydrating, and showering. That shower
Right.
is a wash off yesterday, come into
Reset.
today. And
Yeah.
it makes a big difference when you do it and when you don't do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You miss a meal. Everybody knows what hangry feels like. It's not fun.
100%.
So it's
Yes.
really keeping things simple and yet having these complex ideas or concepts
Mhm.
that can be simple in our life.
And can be put in such a way that even people that may be, I would think, stubborn, or, a bit of a tough crowd, or, oh, well, seems a little too complex. People get discouraged and sometimes they don't want to explore those things. And I imagine that putting them in that context and kind of showing them that they can kind of transmute that difficult feeling into something productive. I mean, it's
Yes.
just remarkable. And I'm sorry, in my head, I'm like thinking like 11. So let me ask you, who is your favorite author?
You know, we have so many that come to mind. Some that have been so influential for us have been Maya Angelou. I know why the caged bird sings. You know what I mean? It's just always been on my heart, and so much of her work. There's Langston Hughes and James Baldwin. Just the depth that they go to, especially when you consider the times that they were living in. You
Yes.
know, to be that expressive and to be that honest and real and open, and to get to where they got to as
Mhm.
Black Americans, it's just chills going
Yes,
down my spine, you know?
100%. That's how I feel
So,
about Toni.
with who?
I said that's how I feel about Toni Morrison. I feel
Oh,
like
yes,
that.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. So, there's no way that we would be who we are without having read their literature, you know,
Yes.
and really having that sink in. Um, a dream deferred, you know, raisin in the sun, all those things, all these pieces that even I found that when I wasn't, before I was introduced to those things, they were affecting who we were because of the
Mhm.
ways that it affected the community around us that
Yes.
then, you know, uh, had a bypass to me, you know? So it's
Mhm.
deep. It's deep out
Yeah.
here in
It
these
really
streets.
is, and that was so well said about how kind of their work permeated culture to the point where their reach was impacting us as young adults, and we probably just didn't even make the connection, and we're living it. I think that
Yes.
just speaks to that. It's and to your point about the time frame. This is before things was like tech, viral and all in the
Hmm.
world in 1 minute, and somehow it still reached everywhere it was supposed to go. And I think that's so beautiful. And for you to, kind of carry on and build your own legacy through that work and still mindful of what influenced, wow. Okay, so I have a few more questions. But Let's see. So I know we talked a little bit about how this particular series came about, but writing in general, how did that begin for you? Was that something that, took place in your, your younger years, or did it kind of you cultivated it as time came on? How did that go?
Well, when we were in elementary school, really all throughout school, we were not a fan of writing. We just had it so that we weren't good at it. And it was like, we're not good at it. That's why it doesn't come easily. Like this is no. We're an artist. We want to move. We want to sing. We want to dance. Like get us out of here. You know,
Yeah.
like so that's where we were. And a very influential teacher, second grade teacher, Miss Johnson. Never forget her. She's still in our life right now because she's been that influential. But influential for writing specifically, she would sit us down and she saw something in
Mhm.
us that she knew she had to cultivate. I don't know how easy it was to cultivate at the time, but she cultivated some patience on her own side and on ours to be able to sit us down and realize like, hey, just get it done. And when we were free of the distractions, not just out here, but in our mind, we
Mhm.
were actually able to put something together. And she was astounded as much as we were that this was a beautiful work.
Mhm.
And we still struggled throughout school, but we had that seed that was planted, you
Yes.
know, from second grade. And then out of school, we didn't really think about it until we moved to California and we were a professional dancer and producer.
Mhm.
And from there, as a producer, we had to write a lot of decks and a lot of press releases. And our team that we were working with at the time was like, you're a really good writer. And
Mhm.
so we had forgotten that, like, oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess we are. Oh, okay. And so still, you know, we really hadn't thought much of it. It was just like a part of the job.
Mhm.
Didn't think about being an author at all until we sat down with our niece to put these things together, and one book and then several books. And we started sharing it with some of our family and friends, like, hey, what do you think about this? It's like, you come up with these rhymes on your own? Like, yeah, for the most part. Like, well, what? I'm like, what do you mean, what? You know, it's like, they seem simple to us, and yet they don't always come simple to people. So it was a recognition of, hey, you got something, you know, keep
Yeah.
going.
Where are we going
And
to?
look, here we are, keep
Yeah.
going.
Wow. And so we kind of got the hint, and you kind of got the push, and then you kind of came back full circle toward, you know,
Yes.
wow. Okay, so what would your advice be to our young writers out there, maybe youth writers, kids that are excited
Mm,
and inspired, but maybe struggling to get started?
hmm. Well, you know, they say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we always tell people, because apart from being a published author,
Mhm.
we are a trauma rehabilitation specialist. And so we have clients that we meet every week, that we do counseling sessions for, not
Mhm.
just about trauma specifically, but things that are going on in their life and how they can uh, adopt some tools to be able to deal with it. And one of the tools that we always speak about and that are ingrained in these books, this is a trauma informed care book where trauma informed care practices are baked into the lessons in these books. So, one of the elements we talk about is baby steps,
Mhm.
right? That people will look at baby steps and think like, oh, well, they're really not that big, you know. But the amount of steps that a baby will take in a year versus the person who is not taking any steps because of fill in the blank, you know, I'm
Right.
scared or I don't want to or I don't feel like it or whatever that blank is, right?
Mhm.
It's monumental, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And celebrating these small victories, you know, you don't have to make big strides, but as long as you're making baby steps every day, you'll look up and 11 books later, you're like,
Yeah.
wait, what did I do? You know, it's really remarkable.
Yeah.
And we thought nobody was really checking for us. Like, yeah, we wrote 11 books, but nobody's really checking, you know, like we
Man.
put it out there and it was out there in the world and we were Instagramming about it, but nobody was really checking for us, you know? So we were
You
like, you know
never
what? It's
know
not that
who's
big of a
checking.
deal. And one of the things that surprised us is that the doctorate that we have now, it's an honorary doctorate of metaphysics. It was conferred to us in acknowledgement for our books that we wrote, along
Mhm.
with a few other things. But it was like things that we were doing during the pandemic that we were like, you know what, people are hurting. We wanted to make an impact.
Mhm.
And you know what? Let's just do it. Like sometimes it would come up like, I don't have the money, I don't have the this, I don't have the that. It's like, wait a minute. But you're walking, you're talking, you
Yes.
got something. You know
A
what I mean? Like,
word.
can you it's about perception, you know what I mean? Like we have God-given gifts and miracles that we at times as humans will ignore every day, you know, and not see them as anything special. And not everybody has that. So just really being able to be present and aware of what we do have, be grateful for that, like we said before, right?
Yes.
That level of presence and awareness takes us into, oh, well, if I have this, then I can make impact. I don't need $10,000 to make an impact. I can make it in this community that I have now or with this one person.
Yep.
And again, that baby step makes ripples.
Mhm.
So our one word of advice would be to honor the baby steps.
Yes. Honor the baby steps. That was a word, Dr. Free. Seriously, I think anybody can benefit from that. I know, Storytime Spotlight, we really like to gear it toward the youth, but we have parents and teachers and, reading groups, all the people that tune in. And, even myself, I get the privilege of soaking this game up as
Mm,
well. So I'm just very grateful for your time and your insight. I do want to take a moment to get into the book. Of
Yes.
course, that's why everybody's here. So I'm going to leave it to you to share with us. If you could just let us know once you're done or when you get started, where we can find this book, where we can support, where we can purchase, and then you can go ahead on with the reading as well.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, like I said, I have 11 books. 10 of them live on their own, and then we have this as the 11th one as a culminating series, all 10 in one. So you can go get them piecemeal, or you can all get them this way. One of the things that we're working on this year is, and it might not be fully completed this year because it's a lot, but translating these 11 books into Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese.
Nice.
Yeah, so 218 pages, very small team right now. And so it'll happen when it happens. We're honoring the baby steps, but that is the intention and the goal right now.
Okay. I love that.
So before we get into the books here, we do want to give a shout out to one of the local inspirations from Pittsburgh for one of the books. His name is Eugene David Williams IV, my little cousin. He's one of my favorite cousins in the world. And he inspired the book Chakra Animal Safari. He loves animals, and this book is about animals specifically from the Amazon jungle.
Oh, wow.
So mostly, I would say, unique animals from the Amazon jungle. And it has an animal gallery in the back, so you're able to learn about some of these animals, and it's a search and find through the rainforest. So it gets a lot more tricky near the end, and it's fun. So, but because it's kind of involved to search and find, we're not going to read that one right now. I just wanted to give a little shout out.
Okay.
And we're going to start with a book called My Many Chakra Faces. Mm-hmm. So one thing about all of these books is that there's a message from the inspired child at the back.
Wow.
We ask them, what do they want the world to know? So you ask a child, the child will say the darndest things sometimes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Some of these things are deep, and some of these things are just like, I want you to know that cheetahs are the best animal on the planet. Like, okay, that's what you wanted people to know. Like, if you didn't know, now you know. So,
now you know.
So this book is inspired by Ajiana Patterson, and it's called My Many Chakra Faces. A face can say so much and sometimes say so little. Match your face with mine and we can rhyme while we fiddle. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a little bit of a trigger warning. I may make some really weird faces. So, here we go. If each chakra had a face, what would it be? Maybe each has more than one, possibly 2 or 3. Let's start with the red chakra. This is the face of fear. I don't feel very safe when my face is stuck here. What kind of faces do you make when you're afraid? Oh no. Turn the page. On to the orange chakra. This is the face of desire. Ooh. When I really want something, my eyes get big and my eyebrows get way higher. What faces do you make when you want something really bad? Ooh. On to the yellow chakra. This is the face of inner power. I feel invincible with this face. Big and strong, like a tower. Can I see your strong faces? You're strong. On to the green chakra. This is the face of love and peace. When this face shows up, that's when I am the most sweet. Can I see your sweet faces, your sweet loving faces? Mm, I love love. On to the blue chakra. This is the face of communication. I use it when I have to get out a lot of information. What faces do you make when you have a lot to say? Well, it's usually a really open mouth face. I'm talking a lot here, I'm talking a lot there. Oh yeah, my eyes might get really big and excited, or they might get a little bit inquisitive if I'm thinking about something. On to the indigo chakra. This is the face of imagination. My face is focused and quiet. It's like a peaceful meditation. What faces do you make when you are inspired? That's the indigo chakra. Very thoughtful faces. On to the violet chakra. This is the face of the wise. When I feel happy where I am, I just gently close my eyes. What faces do you make when you feel restful? I shared some faces and you shared some too. I wonder how many faces we both can do. How many more faces? That's what it says. We still both can do. Here goes the crazy faces. Ah, mm, ah. Ay, ay, ay. And here goes the message from Ajiana. It says, don't forget to always do your best and you'll always succeed. Thank you, Adriana. So
Thank
that,
you.
yes, yes.
How? I know these kids get a kick out of them faces.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a great intro into which how the chakras align with our emotions, right? So we got to get into the root chakra, which is yes, fear or survival, and not seeing that as a bad thing, but seeing how that shows up in our life, right? And how to navigate in or out of those spaces. So it's a really, really awesome book. And it's a great reminder for adults as well, right? Like, oh, you know what? If I'm feeling a certain type of way, it's like, oh, you know what? My heart chakra was really open right now. I'm just crying over everything. That's so cute, you know? Oh, you know what? Got it. Do I like it being that open right now? Yeah, it works. Or in times where, you know what, that's not appropriate. It's not where I want to be. I'm going to be conscious about closing that down and opening up my communication, or opening up my inquisitive, my indigo, my thoughtful chakra, right? So just really bringing that awareness back.
All right, so almost like almost like a spiritual GPS that helps you kind of,
Yes.
navigate.
Yes.
And I also really this is something new to me, just how, I mean, like we have alphabet books and number books and shape books, but for you to introduce chakras in that context and it still connects to everything else that's necessary for kids to learn, emotional regulation or expression of self, the colors, different things that are all just very central to formative years and growing up.
Yeah.
And it fits right in the same exact way,
It sure does. It sure does. And because it's so rhymey, a lot of kids, when they read it on a regular basis, they'll go off and, create songs to it, or like have little jam to it. And it helps them remember not just the content, but the impact of these lessons, of these stories. Yeah. So it's great all the way around.
100%. Wow. This is amazing.
You think we have time for another one?
I think we do. I would love to.
Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
All right. So this one is called Chakra Bubble Tag.
Okay.
And this is that affirmation book that I was talking about. So each bubble that we're going to catch has a different affirmation inside of it. And it'll be able to take us a little bit deeper into the world of chakras and how they can be regulated, how they show up in our life.
Okay.
So bubbles here, bubbles there, chakra bubbles everywhere. Let me actually move a little bit.
Oh, excuse.
Do. All right, let's see. Let's do a little bit more. All right, so we have bubbles here, bubbles there, chakra bubbles everywhere. One by one, tag the bubble. No, tag the bubbles one by one. Chakra bubble tag is fun. Tag the bubble, the color is red. Thoughts of survival running through my head. When I feel fear at any time, I simply recall this red chakra rhyme. The affirmation says, eat, hydrate, sleep, shower. That is how I restore power. Remember that from before? Tag the bubble, the color is orange. Watch my expression leap out of storage. When low on passion, when emotions are strong, I act on desires that make me feel I belong. The affirmation is, I create freely without guilt. Cozy moments are sure to be built. I love a good cozy moment. Tag the bubble, the color is yellow. I feel the energy of willpower bellow. When I feel angry or out of control, I recharge my battery to my soul. The affirmation is, real strength and power come from inside. Courage and bravery are my guide. Tag the bubble, the color is green. My flow of love is full and serene. When ego clouds my heart and mind, acceptance is the place. No. When ego clouds my mind and heart, acceptance is the place to start. Got to finish that rhyme. The affirmation is, I have compassion for both you and me. I attract positivity. Tag the bubble, the color is blue. The truth of creation comes into view. When I don't use my voice, or in times when I use it too much, it is time to listen and get back in touch. The power of words lives in my ears. Speaking my truth, I have nothing to fear. Tag the bubble, the color is indigo. Trusting myself beyond what I know. When I feel uncertain of myself or of others, I think of all the times, I think of all the things I can trust to recover. Just like the best Wi-Fi, I am connected and strong. I have a crystal clear vision of where I belong. I love that one.
That's a bar.
Tag the bubble, the color is violet. My very own paradise. Consciousness inspired it. When I feel entitled and suddenly full of doubt, I take a few deep breaths out in nature as I wander about. The affirmation is, I am highly aware of bliss all around. I am grateful for all the wisdom I've found. We tagged them all. What a delight. And now all of the chakras are shining so bright. I am feeling super zen. Let's play chakra bubble tag again. Now, this book was inspired by Sonia Morrison. And the message from Sonia is, listen to what your heart wants and don't pay attention to what others think. It's your life. You know, just very much that.
Listen, I feel like that was, she was like, I'm gonna get everyone with this one. I'm gonna just talk to
Right,
everyone.
right.
I love that. Well, we got a blessing. We got a double feature here today on Storytime Spotlight. I think that's the first time in the history of Storytime Spotlight we got to
Oh,
get
awesome.
such a treat. So, I want to thank you for taking the time out, sharing just a little bit about your process and, your journey and your gift, of course, and also just including the youth in not just the reach, but also in the process. I think that that's beautiful, and I'm sure our audience is going to really appreciate that. Dr. Free. So just want to thank you for taking the time out again. It was really lovely to meet you.
Absolutely. It's been
And
a
I
pleasure, Keah.
yes, and if you can tell
Thank
us
you so
again
much.
where we can find these books and where we can purchase them at.
Of course, of course. So our books are available on over 39,000 platforms around the world right now. Yeah, we've been going to work. So it's easily accessible in on Amazon.
Mhm.
You can look up the Conscious Children's Chakra book series, and you'll see them as individuals as well as the series itself. They are also available in paperback or ebook. So
Oh,
there
wow.
goes that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Trying to meet the needs of the technology
Mm.
technologically technologically, let's see, how do I put this lightly, um not
Accessibility.
fixed, technologically focused
Mm.
children. You know,
Wow.
the ones that don't want to get off the screen, great, let's give you
Mhm.
something to look at that
iPad just
can, you know,
glued to their hands. Mm.
okay. so
Yes.
so we have that, and then it's on barnesandnobles.com as well. uh yeah, but Amazon will be the best bet.
Okay. All right. So you heard it here. Definitely check out this lovely series. 11 books total. So there's something for everybody. Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and 39,000 different platforms across the world. So you're bound to run into this series. Thank you so much again. August was an African American Cultural Center Storytime Spotlight is every other month. We're going to take a small break for the summer and see you guys back in October. Please keep an eye out for Pride and Joy, which is Friday. We really hope to see you down at the center for our festivities and all of our celebrations for Pride. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Storytime Spotlight. Take care.
Bye bye.